Welcome to Batman, Superman, Dawn of Podcast with Adam and Nick.
Welcome to another episode of Batman, Superman, Dawn of Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Nick. Nick, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing super. Happy to be here, and boy, do we got a great show today. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. We were fed a buffet as of this recording yesterday. Now, when we scheduled this recording back about a month ago, we had no idea any of this was coming.
Yeah.
But then there were whispers that, again, as of this recording, last week there was a press event, a private press event for DC Studios. And we said, I remember messaging you, and I said, well, gee, I hope whatever the hell they have to release, they release before we have to record. And apparently, James Gunn was listening. Because,
he listens.
the information was dropped Monday, which was yesterday, again, as of this recording. By the time you're hearing this, that Monday was weeks ago, but I digress. And in addition to all the news that we're going to drop on you in the first half, the second half will be our wrap-up review of the rest of the final season of Superman and Lois. So that's what you have to look forward to on today's show. All right, Nick, let's break it all down. And of course, there was other news besides Batman and Superman-related stuff, but for the purposes of this podcast, we're only going to focus on those. Don't worry, Donnie and I will cover the Green Lantern news. And we'll probably throw Starfire in. Actually, we'll throw Starfire in there because Titans is kind of tangentially involved with Batman, kind of, sort of, so we'll throw it in here anyway. But, all right, first up, on the Superman side of the equation, the trailer, the official first trailer, even though the teaser was 2.5 minutes long, the first official trailer is being edited right now by James Gunn and will be released relatively soon. And that is pretty much the quote, that relatively soon. Peter Safran and James Gunn also said that they probably won't have a big presence at San Diego Comic-Con in 2025, but they will have a big presence at CinemaCon. Which is, I believe it's early April. I think April 9th or something thereabouts, around there. So, yes, and again, James Gunn didn't tell me this personally because God knows I wouldn't be invited to the press event. Why would they? I have no business being there unless I sneak in. But, I'm guessing, my guess is that the first trailer will drop the same time as CinemaCon is happening. That's my guess. Luke, are you excited to see this first trailer, second look at the film?
First trailer, second look, right? Yeah, second trailer to the teaser trailer. I'm over the moon, excited to see whenever it is. It is exciting that it could happen as soon as 2 weeks of this recording, or it could happen sometime around CinemaCon, at CinemaCon, shortly after CinemaCon. It feels like a great place to debut it too, especially when they're going to be around theater exhibitors. Yeah. It's cool that like James Gunn's going to make like this big presentation for the movie itself and arguably the trailer, and then hopefully it dropped online for everybody else. But it's a bummer that they're not going to be at San Diego Comic-Con, or that the movie itself won't have some presence, considering that James Gunn seems to have a lot to show at San Diego Comic-Con, arguably more this year than he did last year, so that's interesting. But I'm excited to see the official trailer of Superman. And I don't know if you caught this too, but it seems like they also have some kind of Barbie level campaign in plan for the movie, so that's exciting.
Which is great, which is fantastic.
So hopefully that'll probably be gearing up soon.
Yeah, that worked out wonders for Barbie. So I'm assuming that this trailer will be more story heavy and probably a little bit more dialogue heavy, right? The reason why I think they won't be at Comic-Con is, or not to say that they won't be at Comic-Con, they just won't have a huge presence. And the reason why I think that is because the 2025 output, like Superman will be out before Comic-Con occurs.
Mm-hmm.
And Peacemaker will be, shortly to be released. Peacemaker season 2. I get the sense that with this DC Studios, they are really focused on making sure that everything is ready for when they want to divulge information. So if Green Lantern is still filming, they're not going to want to show you anything that's not finished, right? Like it seems like they want to show us stuff on their timetable when they're ready, when things are polished. So that's probably why the emphasis at Comic-Con is a little bit diminished, because Green Lantern will still be filming. Supergirl might be wrapped by that time, probably, I'm assuming, the way it's going. What something else is about to go into, so they may just be cautious about not wanting to show unfinished stuff, as opposed to where Marvel will show you a logo and a release date, and then change that release date, months later. But just to say, hey, look, we showed you something. I don't think DC wants to do that. They want to, if they're going to show you, whatever that is that they're showing you is on the heels of coming out or is almost ready. Is the way the sense that I get from them. But we'll see. We don't know exactly whether they're going to be at Comic-Con at all or not at all. Again, all that we know is that they won't have a huge presence, instead opting for CinemaCon. So that's all we know. In relation to Superman, James Gunn and Peter Safran also revealed that there are going to be released 4 short films that will be released seasonally. So fall, winter, spring, summer. 4 short films revolving around Krypto. The Krypto from the film, obviously. So the same universe as the shared DC universe. I'm assuming this is live action. I didn't hear anything about it being animation or anything. Again, this is going to be more family oriented for the whole family, as a Superman product probably should be. And with the first reactions to Krypto, what they were, this makes a ton of sense. And me being such a fan of, the Christmas season, I'm hoping the winter special is Krypto at Christmas. I don't know what that would entail, whether David Corenswet appears or not, but I'm looking forward to watching this with my little niece. I think she'll get a kick out of it, because I know she was into Krypto when she saw him in the trailer, and this just sounds fun. What are your thoughts, Nick?
I think this actually sounds pretty wonderful. I think I'm right there with you. The fact that they're doing one for each season is pretty cool. And I do think that it's a showcase of that. I think Krypto's going to be a huge star coming out of the movie, so you might as well just embrace it and kind of lean into the star power that Krypto is going to have. And I think it's a cool way to keep showcasing Krypto out there for everybody, because like you said, this could be something that's for people of all ages. Doesn't have to just be for kids. You could finally give us that much needed Superman Christmas special with Krypto. Maybe Supergirl's involved somewhere in between. But there's a lot of cool things that I think you can do with it. And James Gunn, obviously having all the experience and the success with animals and animalistic creatures, I think we should have no doubt that this is going to be a resounding success, I would say.
Absolutely agreed. Now, interesting that you mentioned Supergirl, a Woman of Tomorrow. That's the next news that we have to brief you on. That movie is actually halfway through production. And we have only seen one picture that we talked about last time of her from behind sitting in a production chair. I kind of love that, Nick, because as much as I want to see the full suits and I want to see what Ruth looks like and what Krem looks like and all that, I love the fact that, at least with DC Studios, we seem to have gone back to the days where we didn't get everything before the movie comes out via spy picks, because I think we live in a day and age where we know too much of how the sausage is made. So as much as I want to see stuff, I am actually happy about the fact that we are halfway through production and haven't seen a thing. Which brings us to the Lobo of it all. James Gunn said, "Don't. It'll be a while before you see Lobo because unlike what with Superman, where we had to shoot outside and couldn't control, spy pictures, they will not be shooting in downtown London outside, so you won't see. At least James Gunn hopes you won't see spy pictures of Jason Momoa's Lobo." At the press event, they were asked what Lobo looks like, and Peter Safran says, or they were asked what Jason Momoa looks like as Lobo, and Peter Safran said he looks like Lobo. He apparently has a different skin color. His skin is painted a different color, obviously the grayish color of Lobo, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't wait to when they do give it to us, whenever that is. I'm looking forward to seeing that because that is pitch perfect casting in terms of visually. Jason Momoa as Lobo, so I mean it's going to look really cool, no doubt. But are you surprised that Supergirl is already halfway through production?
I'm actually very surprised. Now, granted, I know it's what you and I were talking about on the last show, that it seems like this movie has been mostly filming indoors and was going to film mostly indoors, so this idea that we haven't seen anything of the movie other than that one still that was officially released by Gunn, I guess, doesn't really shock me. As far as getting a first look at Lobo goes, I personally am excited to see Lobo on the big screen, but it wasn't something that I was itching to see right away. I'm more interested to see how Supergirl is going to look.
Yeah.
Although very, very interesting is, Adam, there could be a actually foreseeable world where our first look at Supergirl doesn't come until, I guess it's not really a spoiler because they already dropped it, until Superman.
Or the trailer for Superman. Can you imagine?
Right. So
all that secrecy that, hello, I'm here.
Imagine you filmed an entire movie, you haven't released a first look of that character, and the first look of Supergirl comes in a Superman movie.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be amazing. But I'm excited that it's halfway done. That's actually pretty cool. I mean, no drama or anything like that. It seems like it's one of the most smoothest sailing productions I think I've ever heard.
What a time! Two big films in, and we haven't seen any drama yet. Yeah, jeez. Well, what is this? Is this the way films are supposed to be made? Imagine that.
What is this?
Yeah. It's the right. There's the upside down. I feel like 2016 to 2021 for DC was the Stranger Things version of the upside down world. And this is now like the normal world.
Yeah.
Supergirl is just about halfway through. Let's move on to the Batman of it all, shall we? So, a couple of things were confirmed. I know a lot of people were a couple months back acting like as if the Penguin season 2 was a foregone conclusion. To which Peter Safran and James Gunn said, "Well, let's hold your horses," because there have been talks about doing a season 2, but all involved are saying that there has to be the right story and reason for them to go back. They can't just do it just for the sake of, hey, the first season was successful, let's force a season 2. And Colin Farrell, by the sounds of it, isn't really itching to do another season. Like every quotation you see, it's like, I'll do it if there's a good reason to, but I'm in no rush to do it. And if it doesn't happen, oh well. So, I mean, if it happens, will I watch? Yeah, as long as he doesn't do anything disturbing, like messing around with his mom. And if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. If it doesn't happen, will I cry and roll up in a ball? No, it is what it is. That's where I'm at with the Penguin. Because to me, there are far more pressing concerns. And one of those pressing concerns is the fact that as of this press event, which again, as of this recording happened last Friday, James Gunn and Peter Safran confirmed that Matt Reeves has still not handed in the script for the Batman Part 2. They have seen portions of it, however, and are very encouraged with how it's going. Look, now there is some scuttlebutt from scoopers that something personal is going on with Matt Reeves, and it may be health related or not. I don't know. If it is health related, Godspeed. I hope that everything goes well and he recovers well, because that's first and foremost. That's more important than any other movie.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thing. If the situation is that concerning, let's say, then you may want to start looking at, hey, maybe relieving yourself from this production. But there's nothing more important than your personal health or personal sanity or whatever than a film. So if that's happening, maybe that's something to be thought about. If it's not health or personal related, this is taking way too long. The other things that were confirmed, and then I'll let you speak on these things, is this. Robert Pattinson will not, according to James Gunn and Peter Safran, be shared amongst Matt Reeves and the DCU. Robert Pattinson will not be the Batman of the shared DC universe. That was now publicly verbalized by the two heads of DC Studios. So I think we can now put that to bed. It's not happening.
Mm.
If anything happens with Robert Pattinson's Batman, we're lucky that it's the Batman Part 2 at this rate.
Yeah.
So there's that. So Nick, what do you make of all this, the Batman talk, before we get into Brave and the Bold?
Yeah, well, I mean, first and foremost, obviously, regarding the Penguin Season 2, Colin Farrell did win a SAG Actor Award for playing the role of Oz Cobblepot, I should say, the Penguin, so congratulations to him. Much deserved award for him. He was kind of he was losing unprecedentedly, which was criminal to me, because I thought he deserved all the awards in my humble opinion. So kudos to that. As far as the season 2 goes, like, I'm kind of with you, Adam. Like, I'm not kicking myself over not getting a season 2 if it never happens. I'm pretty satisfied, all things considered, where that series ended. I'd be much interested in them maybe leaning into something like a Catwoman, or them leaning in on like a GCPD, or actually doing the Arkham show. Like, so there's different avenues if they want to keep this universe going. I'm not so certain that we need to, continue the Adventures of Penguin, I guess, might you add.
Yeah.
So if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, totally fine. The Batman Part 2 news, again, it's a bummer. It sucks. Clearly, there's a lot of things going on with Matt Reeves right now that none of us know. It's none of our business to speculate. He'll share it when I guess he wants to share it, but obviously we hope everything's okay. But at the end of the day, Adam, you're spot on. As much as I love Matt Reeves as a visionary, as a creator, as a filmmaker, he is just one guy. And if James Gunn and Peter Safran are keen on this movie happening, and it keeps getting stalled and prolonged, and you're committed to doing this other Batman of your own, at a certain point you got to have the hard discussions, right? You got to decide whether or not, can Matt fully commit another 2 years of his life to this thing? I would assume. Or do we have to look elsewhere if we're keen on making this movie, and we're not just going to do Brave and the Bold, right? Because at this point, you might be better off just putting Batman 2 on TV.
I don't think they do it without Matt Reeves. I think if Matt Reeves doesn't do it,
his name is on so many other projects. Yeah.
I think this thing gets shelved if Matt Reeves doesn't do it. Speaking of Brave and the Bold, you brought it up. We do have some concrete updates. It is moving ahead. They're at the stage now where a writer has been hired and is writing the script, and he has been for some time. The caveats and information added are that James Gunn is working closely with this writer, who has been unnamed, because James Gunn didn't want to put undue pressure on him, because the minute that person gets named, the fans are going to find him on social media if he's on there and start bombarding him with nonsense. And as is the case, you better put this in there, you better put that in there, you better put all this kind of stuff in there. So I kind of understand why James Gunn didn't divulge the name.
Right.
But it's very important that James Gunn is working very closely with him, because James Gunn said, everybody knows that I love Batman, and I am committed to doing this right and getting this character out there. Now, and James Gunn, and even Peter Safran says it's imperative that we introduce Batman in the DC universe. The reason why this is important, Nick, is because if James Gunn is working closely with him, like anytime James Gunn decides to step in and work closely with somebody, you know that out of all the projects that, because we know some projects got slowed down, some have been delayed, put in the back burner. When James Gunn steps in and says, okay, I'm going to work with this writer, that project is of high importance and there's no chance of it getting put on the back burner. If James Gunn is stepping in, it's a serious priority for DC Studios. So that's a great thing. Number one. The other thing that's interesting is that they said that when the script is done, it will be shown to Andy Muschietti before they decide on who is directing the movie. I'm going to say this because I think it bears, before I say what else I'm going to say, I think it bears to be said. I enjoyed the Flash movie. The Batman portions, both Batman, were the best parts of that movie. I have no ill will towards Andy Muschietti. If Andy Muschietti directs this movie, I will be content. Having said that, when that's put out there in the press briefing, I don't think Andy Muschietti is directing this thing. If you ask me, I think I have a couple of suggestions. But again, this is not in the press briefing. James Gunn has not told me this, but here are some candidates I will put forth to direct Brave and the Bold. First, Sam Raimi. This man has said that if he gets a call to direct a Batman movie, he will jump at the chance. So that's my number one choice. My number two choice is already kind of in the DC fold, and that's Mike Flanagan. Because he wrote Clayface, he couldn't direct it because he's currently about to start directing something else. But when that's finished, maybe he's an option. The third option, and this would not surprise me in the least, because we've heard this rhetoric. Remember when Superman was being written by James Gunn? And he says, well, I'm not sure who's going to direct. It might be me, it might not be me. So the third option is James Gunn. It wouldn't shock me if when the script is done, James Gunn decides, I'm directing Brave and the Bold. Another key thing to point out, and then I'll let you speak on the Brave and the Bold stuff, is this. During the press event, Peter Safran said, I can tell you that you're going to get two things. He said, we're going to get more information on Brave and the Bold soon. And I can tell you that there will be a Batman movie released in 2027. But beyond that, that's all I can say. That wording suggests to me that if the Batman script, if the Brave and the Bold script comes together in a pleasable manner to James Gunn and Peter Safran, and it materializes and finalizes before the Batman Part 2 does, there is a chance that the DCU Batman, Brave and the Bold, releases before the Batman Part 2. So, Nick, with all that said, take it away. What's your take?
Oh wow, yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? I think first things foremost is their Batman situation. Adam continues to get messier and messier by the day. Like
once Batman is cast.
Holy cow! I can't remember the last time I've seen a Batman situation this messy. But I get it. They can say what they can say. They can't say what they can say. Brave and the Bold is like very interesting to me because you brought up the point about Andy Muschietti has like this first look, has his first look at the script, but he's like, I guess he's not the director, but if he likes the script enough, he can choose a director. Like, you would just think that if he was the director of the movie,
he's their first choice, but
right, like you would just assume if he's directing the movie, he's being shown the script. Well, that just means they go full steam ahead. Otherwise, if he doesn't like the script, does that mean another director will? So does he just have bad taste or whatever? So it's like, it's very weird. That whole
just let me interject for a second. To talk to your point. I think that's a nice way of saying that. Sure, we're still going to show him the script. I don't think they've shown him nothing when this thing is done. I don't think he's directing. I could be wrong, but I think that's the start of saying he ain't doing this thing without saying he ain't doing this thing.
Yeah, it's the language of it. I thought was just weird. I think you might be pretty spot on, and that maybe it's just
way to say we fired him, but you just don't want to say that.
Exactly. But I do think that the Batman in this DCU has to work, and I think that it's more imperative to Gunn right now that he needs to find a way to make this work, whether he does it himself or he finds somebody else that's capable of doing the job. Now, what's interesting, again, as we've been talking about, as we've been nailing, the nail on the head here, is that Brave and the Bold could go before the Batman Part 2, or it could be still a years away. But it's obvious that they are moving forward with this. And it's obvious that there is some kind of clear direction that they are moving forward with Brave and the Bold. So I actually anticipate that if the Batman Part 2 isn't shooting by the end of this year, as they're saying, I got no reason to believe why Brave and the Bold wouldn't be.
Yeah, if it gets delayed again, then it's done.
Like why you would just delay Brave and the Bold, or why this movie wouldn't seemingly move forward.
I think what's very clear is that anybody that thinks that James Gunn and Peter Safran are waiting for Matt Reeves to finish a whole trilogy before
it's just not true.
You've lost your mind, whoever that is. You've lost your mind if that's what you think. After hearing these quotes, there's no way that the Brave and the Bold is not of paramount importance to James Gunn and Peter Safran. There's also the clayface of it all. Mike Flanagan wrote that. They have the director. What's the director's name?
James Watkins.
James Watkins, yeah, right. Which I think is a good choice. And it's an R-rated body horror movie set in the DC universe. That was explicitly said, that it's set in James Gunn and Peter Safran's shared DC universe. And James Gunn said, look, while Robert Pattinson isn't the DCU Batman, and while DCU Batman has not been cast yet, he could appear in other projects before Brave and the Bold. My friends, I'm telling you that in my opinion, I could be way off, I think that other project will be Clayface. Because part of the briefing from the press said that noted that the Clayface film will take place in terms of fictional settings, in both Hollywood and Gotham City. If you think about Clayface stories, there was a series of I think 4 or 6 stories. It was called Batman One Bad Day, and it spotlighted villains. Like they did Ra's al Ghul, they did Riddler, they did Two-Face, I think maybe Joker, I can't remember. It's been a while since I read them. But one of the ones they did was Clayface. And Clayface went on a murderous rampage in Hollywood before being wrangled up by Batman and taken back to Gotham. I think that's exactly what could happen. Maybe not the murderous rampage on that scale, but that part of Batman going and getting him and bringing him back to Arkham is the way Batman could be in this. So, maybe you don't see Batman in a full movie where it's an R-rated movie, but you're somewhere in the third act, he stops Clayface and brings him in. That's my suggestion. But that's going to start shooting this summer. And once they dot all the I's and T's on the contracts, they will be looking for an actor. Don't be surprised if it's a more well-known name. And I am just going to throw this out there. I wouldn't be shocked if it's James McAvoy. Just put that there. But very excited about that. And the fact that Mike Flanagan's script was inspired by the Batman the Animated Series episodes that introduced Clayface just gets me even more excited. So that's really cool. But before we go on to just finally talk about...
Oh, can I also throw out another name for you, too, might I add? And I haven't heard anything concrete of anything. I think John Hamm would be a good choice as well.
I could see that for sure. Absolutely.
I thought that out there. Yeah.
And he would have to sign a 12-picture deal and maybe show up in a couple of Batman-related projects and then call it a day. That could be interesting. There are a couple of interesting things regarding James Gunn and Peter Safran. They alluded to that they have a planned Avengers-like event film that they are leading up to with all this. So, without saying it, it's basically telling you that there will be a Justice League film of some kind for this DC universe, which anybody with half a brain would have told you is the probable outcome. So there's that. Also, James Gunn mentioned that he's currently writing the next project that he intends to direct. He was then asked, is it the Superman sequel? And he said, no, that's not to say that I won't write the Superman sequel, but I'm not writing it currently. But it's connected. So he's writing something that's connected to Superman. We know it's not Supergirl because that's filming.
Right.
I highly doubt he's going to make a Jimmy Olsen film, standalone film. I don't think he's going to make a Lois Lane.
The Lex Luthor movie's real.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to make a standalone Lois Lane movie, although I would watch it because...
Right.
Listen, you were waiting for that, I know it. So I don't think it's any of that. But he's making a film that's connected to Superman. In that same press event, he said how much he loves Batman and how important DCU Batman is to him, and that he's working closely with the writer of Brave and the Bold. This is speculation. But, Nick, do you think that secret project is a Batman Superman World's Finest film? Because I'm starting to believe that, and I want that.
Yep. Yeah, I 100% buy that. It could fathomably be World's Finest. And I think that, you know what, if it is World's Finest, that to me would bring such good faith, I feel like, to DC fans to see World's Finest being done properly, right?
Yeah.
I know you and I talked about, too, this isn't something that you need 10 movies to build up to right away. It could be the third or fourth movie if you wanted to. There's tons of stories, Public Enemies, The World's Finest animated movie, the Bruce Timm one. There's a whole bunch of, the Dan Mora, World's Finest comic one, right? So there's avenues that you could explore as to why this movie would come when it is. But I feel like this movie, personally, being done properly and being done the right way, especially James Gunn doing it, I feel like this gains so much trust back in the public eye.
Especially the fact it's a World's Finest with them teaming up.
And I think it's time, too.
It's such a difference than and again, I'm not going to knock the movie, but Batman Superman World's Finest as a title is much different and implies much different things than Batman versus Superman. Like, the implication is just night and day, right? Just by the title. Yeah. So, I believe this is the project.
Yeah,
and so listen, when that announcement, if that comes down, if that's the announcement, I will literally probably faint or cry or scream, and I will become insufferably excited for every little detail of that project, right down from the first sentence of the script to the first set being built, to who's doing the catering. All the stuff is going to get me excited. So just know that if that announcement comes down, this is going to be a version of me like you've never seen before for the entirety of that production. I'm just going to point that out.
Yeah.
because, like I said, if somebody put a gun to my head and said you can only collect one DC book, period, it would be the Batman Superman World's Finest book. That's how much I love these two characters.
Yeah.
So the last thing that we have to mention before we take a break and then go over to Superman and Lois, because it's kind of tied into Batman, is the fact that it was confirmed, kind of begrudgingly, because Peter Safran blurted it out, and then James Gunn was like, well, yeah, it's true, is the fact that Anna Nogueira, who wrote Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, is confirmed to be working on a script for Teen Titans. James Gunn and Peter Safran said that she is incredibly passionate about Teen Titans. She has presented a script that is really, really good. It's not finished yet, and she's still tinkering with it, but she is working on it, and she is very passionate about it, and it's really good so far. That's another project where Batman could make, or the DCU Batman could make another cameo, so that there are a couple of appearances by him. Let's say Clayface, let's say the hypothetical World's Finest, let's say Teen Titans, and then Raven the Bull. Well, then it's not like, hey, we just dropped Batman in your lap, and here he is. Like, there's been a build-up to him, right? And so that's how that could work. But I'm incredibly excited for the prospective Teen Titans, because it, at the very least, means we're either going to get Dick Grayson during his time as Robin, if it's a prequel movie, or we're going to see Dick Grayson as Nightwing, and that's something that I'm really anticipating. So, deep in Citadel, that's the news, and I really love how straightforward all this news was. They told us what everything was, and there was no, it is what it is, here it is. And I will say, before we head to break, I'm feeling a lot more confident and comfortable with DCU Batman than I was before this announcement. Just knowing that he's a priority for the studio is a big difference.
Yes.
So, when there is more news on anything Superman and Batman related as pertains to the DC universe, being shepherded by James Gunn and Peter Safran, we will let you know. But that's it for now. We'll take a quick break and come back on the other side talking about Superman and Lois. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What's up, everyone? It's the Emerald Enthusiast. For all of your multiverse viewing and listening needs, check out our shows, which include Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Power Rangers, the Marvel Universe, and the DC Universe, including the Emerald Echo podcast. You can check us out on Podbean, and remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. That's the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network. From the first podcast to the last.
And we're back, and finally we're going to talk the long-awaited final few episodes of Season 4, the final season of Superman and Lois. So when we last left you, I believe Superman had been resurrected from his battle with Doomsday, and he was given, remember, as you know, Sam Lane's heart, and he was human, and we were wondering what that would entail. Like, his powers were slightly diminished, and how would this work out? And it turns out that he still had his powers, but eventually, what Superman had learned from talking to the hologram of his mother was that eventually you would get old and you would die as a normal human being. So in that interim, Superman tried to prepare Jonathan and
Jordan.
Thank you. To take up the mantle for eventually when he was unable to do so anymore. What we saw in these episodes that I really, really liked, apart from the Clark and the family grappling with that change in their reality, was the emergence of Lex into the Lex that we know from the comic books. Like, he shaved that beard, he put the business suit on, and he used Gilbert Gottfried's television program, to discredit Lois Lane, say that she lied about him, and and she cost him years of his life in prison, and just that duplicitous way of being to use the media and to twist things to discredit Lois and Superman, I thought was incredible, especially given this dynamic of Superman having revealed Clark having revealed himself to be Superman, allowed Lex to call into question Lois's objectivity as a reporter, saying, "Look, for years she's covered him. She as a reporter, she's known who he is. How can her reporting be trusted?" And then you take into account that she framed me. I love that whole dynamic that Lex was trying to play there. And Michael Cudlitz, I think it was, right? He played perfectly. Like when he went into full legitimate Lex Luthor mode that we know from the comics, it was nearly pitch perfect. What did you think of that?
Yeah, no, I think Michael Kuditz's Lex Luthor, I think, was arguably, I don't think it's well, I guess maybe since Rosenbaum, might be the most, the ferocious version of Lex Luthor we've ever seen. I mean, God, the guy stepped on a man's little heart.
Yeah.
And then sat next to the guy's children in a diner the very next day. I don't know how much more menacing and evil you can get than that. But no, I'm completely with you. I think all of the stakes that were established in this show made so much sense. I said from day one, this show was always just pure Superman, and that was always the best way that I could describe it. That it was always like iconic moment after iconic moment. The dialogue always made sense. The relationships were always great.
Yeah.
And I do love Adam, and I know we're going to talk about a little bit more, but they committed to this choice. They could have done the easy thing, and the CW was always notoriously known for this. And
some sort of reversal, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not knocking on it, but they could have done the easy thing where he just becomes fully Superman again, and they find a way to maneuver around the heart situation. But you know what? They stuck with it. They stuck to their choice, and I think they landed arguably one of the most painstaking season finales I've ever seen, and I mean that like. I had cheers down like Niagara Falls, like you would have never seen.
One of the things that just the scenes where we're talking about where they're on the TV program and he's discrediting.
Yes.
Superman.
Oh, that was so good.
There's the moment where because he had Brainiac infect Steel's suit, and he starts to go haywire. And he starts falling, free falling in the air. And there's that scene where, Superman's watching them, Lex and Lois debate each other on the TV show. And then all of a sudden, he hears that Steel's in trouble. And the way he flies out the window, and the glass, what a beautiful shot. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, the effects on that were stunning. But continue with what you were saying.
No, I thought that was a bit. He still had the vending wing on. The vending wing on too. Excuse me. I can speak English today. He's thinking about Vincy Tolick. Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I was just. I felt like the way that this season always stuck in between Lex and Clark, and then Doomsday was kind of like always in that background. I just thought like the way that like they always use Superman when they really needed it to. It was always just Clark Kent standing up to Lex Luthor in Smallville. I thought that was some of the most bone chilling scenes that I saw in that season. And I do think you're right. I thought the action always delivered in these last few episodes that I got. They were on a limited budget for Christ's sakes too. And the season you wouldn't even have imagined that. But it was such an emotional gun punch, the fact that they established something from episode 1 of this season, and they just kept sticking to it. But no doubt, Adam, you're totally spot on. Just the seasons of Lex Luthor and Lois Lane going toe to toe.
Yeah,
I thought were some of the most I had chills down my spine.
Those two actors brought it. Like,
oh my God!
They to quote the kids, they understood the assignment. I don't even know if you can say it anymore. But yeah, and the other thing that had so much of an emotional weight to it was the return match, if you will, the return fight between Superman and Doomsday, where it's like He already killed Superman, and now Superman has a human heart. How is this going to go any other way than? I'm like, they're going to kill him before seeing the actual way it played out. I'm like, they brought him back just to kill him again. Like, really, they're going to do it? Because I figured there's no way. And even when the kids stepped in, Jonathan and Jordan, you see that they're totally outmatched by Doomsday at this point. Like, they got no chance against him, right? But there was that scene where after Superman kind of sort of recovers from the beating he takes, he gets the boys to kind of create a diversion to fly Doomsday where Superman is waiting for him. And I love that working together between the two of them and how the boys like flying in, through the forest. And like that was, again, so beautifully done. And then as they, again, they take things up, up into the heavens and close to the sun, and they're duking it out. But then Superman starts to try to appeal to Zorro, who is Doomsday, right, in this continuity. And so to appeal to the humanity of Doomsday. And he brings up his kids, and he brings up Lois, and the family, like Superman, to Doomsday / Bizarro. And we start getting Doomsday is having these flashbacks. So to those episodes where we were on the Bizarro world, and you see him with his Lois and his Jordan and his Jonathan, and that kind of sort of, even though his exterior is monstrous, he's back to, in those final moments, he's back to being Bizarro. And instead of attacking Superman, he willfully throws himself into the sun and sacrifices himself to save not only Superman, but the rest of people in Smallville. I thought that was a wonderful character redemption. And I think you can only do that because of the previous seasons giving us time with Bizarro. Like, if they had just done straight away Doomsday, you can't have that redemption moment.
Right.
But because of the Bizarro Doomsday connection, which again is a departure from comic book lore, but it absolutely 100% works in this scenario. And like the way, when Superman was getting ready to punch him, like, you see Bizarro do this or Doomsday do this, and he's like, no, he's like, we're done, and then he throws himself. I thought that was a beautiful moment, and actually got me teary-eyed. So, what did you think of all that?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. It was almost fitting that Superman still gives him that sort of hero's sacrifice or hero's death, even in the end. I mean, he is the one that killed him brutally, by the end too, right? So you would think Superman would still want to do whatever he could to stop him by any means necessary, but in the end, Superman's heart is greater than his might, right? So this idea that this version of Doomsday was willing to still sacrifice himself even after with all the destruction and the damage that he done. It didn't feel like a cop out. It just felt like that version of Doomsday caused enough harm and damage, so he wanted to just let himself go. And I thought that was your spot on. That was a beautiful moment of Superman staring into the sun and then watching Doomsday kind of just fly out there. But even the battle too that we had in Metropolis when Superman is just getting decimated.
Yeah.
There was that look that Superman gave Lois. I don't know if you remember. I think it was actually the ending of an episode. And Clark just looked at Lois, and like suddenly you're watching it, and like my heart literally just stopped.
Where he's like, "This is it." Like, I'm done.
Because it was like, this is it. Like, I think this is it this time. And I was like, oh my god! Like the level of emotion that was conveyed, just in that stare alone. I'm like, this is why I love my Superman and Lois to have been veterans, and they know each other, because it's like a moment like
don't
that.
Have to say anything. There's no words. It's just
right. You don't get a moment like that. Oh my god! Yeah, I thought it was beautiful.
That's what I mean. I was fully convinced that we're going to kill him again, and this time it was going to be for good. And like, I thought the season was going to end with the scenes from the comics where there was the funeral. I didn't think we were going to get a shit ton of heroes from the DC lore, but
You could have bought the CW heroes, I guess, back for it.
yeah, but I thought that we were going to get that thing where he's buried and you get the monument, the statue. I thought we were going to get the whole thing, and that's how they hooked me with that, and it was partly that hook between the two leads that sold it, right? Okay, here we go again. Prepare yourself to watch Superman die for what would be the third time in terms of live action in my life since 2016. Like, honestly, I love this season, but after this, I don't need to see the Superman die in live action. I don't think ever again. Like if I never see it again, I'm okay with it.
Right. Yeah. Definitely same here.
I've now had my fill. Thank you. We're good. Let's move on.
Thank you. Next.
Did we get this kink out of our system, Warner Brothers? Are we good now? You got the maximum bang for your buck with this version of Superman. There are 85 years of storyline now. Like,
Are you good after 3 animated movies, 2 live action movies, and a short?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Okay, good.
And an entire comic one. Are we good now? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and which has been reprinted 50,000 times. But so the other thing that this show gave us, finally, I think for the first time ever in live action, and here's the difference: first time ever in live action. We're probably going to see it in 2025, but I'm ready for it because we haven't seen it enough, in my opinion. But it was Lex versus Superman in the battle suit, or a version of it. It was great, and it was just because he was in the battle suit, you could see Superman let loose. He's like, "You're protected. I can go now." And there was the scene where I think he had Lois on the ground in some sort of chokehold, right? I think he was like choking. And then Superman flies towards him, and he's like, "Stay away from get out of my city or whatever, and get away from my family and my city." And the way he flew to him with his fist cocked, ready to punch him, it was straight out of it's like they ripped. There was a cover, a Superman cover from Jorge Jimenez. And he posted the side by side, I think it was on his Facebook, where they took the shot of that cover and transplanted it to the TV screen.
So good.
And just don't get me wrong, the visual of seeing Superman and Lex go at it with Lex in his battle suit is one thing. But again, it's the emotion of the scene between Tyler Hoechlin and Michael Cutlitz. And again, I expect top quality from Tyler Hoechlin because we've seen 4 full seasons of him as Superman. Mike Cutlitz has only been Lex Luthor for a season, to this point, 10 episodes, right?
Yeah.
That requires a level of skill from the actor to convey that level of history between 2 characters and that level of hatred when you've only been inhabiting this character for 10 episodes. And then to have that instant chemistry with Tyler Hoechlin is incredible. So kudos to both performers. Because all the fights, the punching, the battle suits, they're all great. Visually, they're great. But if you don't have the performance behind it, the emotion behind those scenes, they're meaningless. This is why, again, a lot of the recent Marvel output has been kind of chastised because it's all visual flair, but the substance behind it hasn't been what it once was. So that's why I'm saying the importance of the acting, it needs to be there. It can't just be the visual representation of the comics, as cool as those things are. And this show in these moments nailed it, I thought.
Yeah, no, I completely echo everything you said. I think what was always so different about every fight that Superman had was that he was a father in those moments too, right? The whole him having 2 teenage sons angle, I thought to me added such another layer of dynamic to him always being Superman, because at any point, there were people that knew he had teenage sons, and like that was kind of like his means to stay alive, was that he didn't want to abandon his family. So when he's up there and he's going out it as Clark Kent as a father, and he's going against Lex Luthor, the man that threatened his town, like you said, his wife, his children, people that he cares about. It just makes it so much more emotionally effective. And then the idea that there's so many different it felt like it was. You were right. It felt like it was just pulled straight out of a comic book. Just them in the sky and like the rain, and it's like Clark is like affected by kryptonite for most of that fight, and he's still going at it. God, and then like even like the takedown, like he chooses not to kill him in the end, but it's like, it's like I don't know how much more better Superman you can get, honestly, than that.
Yeah, it's quintessential Superman.
Yeah.
And then they did a flash forward where we see the last time.
Oh, here we go.
One of the last times where Superman is out there as Superman. And so he comes into the shot and he's flying, and then the shot, like it's a wider shot, and you have Steel there, Natasha's there,
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Jonathan and Jordan in the Superboy, in the two different Superboy costumes from the comics. And again, they took a Superman comic cover with the whole Super family there, and kind of manipulated, because obviously they didn't have Supergirl, which would be nice, but everybody else they had, and they made that comic come to life, and that image, and it was so beautiful. It was that one time where this iteration of the Super family was all being heroes together. It was just such a beautiful, heartwarming shot. Mm-hmm. And then the flash forward continues, and you see Superman's older years, where he's getting more gray in his hair, and he's got the Mr. Rogers sweater on because he's getting older, and his sons are grown, and they're grown men, and he says they've taken up the family business, meaning essentially both are Superman, taking up the mantle of Superman, and they come in and they've got all these different grandkids. Him and Lois have all these different grandkids, and then me being me and being so into the comic, I'm like, how many these kids have power? This could have been a spin-off, but we're not getting that. But I digress.
The Super Sons.
The Super grandkids. And then you get the sad moment, the sad reveal. Lois's cancer came back, and this time there was no cure. And then we get a couple of flash forwards with Superman, alone, and he talks about how his boys would always come and check on him, and there were moments where he would go, like he got a dog, which he named Krypto. It was the golden retriever, but anyway, which was a callback to Smallville. Remember Smallville's version of the dog? Mm-hmm. And he would go for walks with John Henry, I think it was, right? No, it wasn't John.
No, it was Kyle.
Kyle. And then eventually Clark collapses and has a heart attack on the same street that his father Jonathan did. And then we have this sort of ending montage where I guess Superman is, passing over into heaven. Mm. And everybody who's been on the show before gets a cameo. Yeah. Like main players, right? Like main people, like his father-in-law. I think Zod or his brother was there, right? Obviously, he sees Jonathan and Jordan as they were when they were young again. I'm assuming because at that point, it's meant to imply that they had passed on too, or whatever. Like when he's in this heavenly state, I think that's what it's meant to imply.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say that is because he sees them as they were younger.
Right.
And there's this belief that, and not to get religious or anything, but there's this belief that people have said, like those people that have had near-death experiences, and they say that when you see people, you see them as they were when they were in their 20s,
Yeah.
so to speak. So I think that was a kind of play on that. And then he sees Lex. Lex is there. I don't know where he's going to. Well, I can tell you where he's probably going to end up. But there's a moment where he sits down at the kitchen table with Lex, and he forgives him, which I thought was very powerful.
Yeah.
And both are like sharing tears. And then he finally opens the door, and there's this ray of sunlight. And as he steps outside, there's Bitsy Lois Lane in this stunning red dress. And I thought to myself, that's what it's like right there.
Close the door.
I'm gone. There you see. This is why I'm not a superhero, because if I was Batman, I would have taken out the Catwoman years ago. And if I was Superman, I'm like, I'm checking out. You got Steel here, and you got Superboy, you got all Supergirl. Get out of here. So yeah, no, it was just such a beautiful shot that it ends just like it started with the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a beautiful full circle moment. I had tears, and I absolutely loved it. You talk about the ending, and then we'll do our final wrap up kind of thing. But you talk about how you thought of the ending.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I kind of already said it too. I was literally like Niagara Falls. It's like the last 15, 20 minutes of
you were the American side, I was the Canadian side.
Yeah, the series finale. I mean, God, like just that final shot that I keep thinking of them, of all the super family together in the sky. Like that's like somebody make that a poster for me too, and I'll pay whatever money you want. I mean, yeah. But it's like just as Superman fans, like you and I mean, like to have that moment, even on a small screen. I mean, like God, like I'm so happy that they were able to pull that off. But God, that ending montage of like Lois and Clark living together as older people. Again, it was like it goes back to that choice that they decided to let him keep the human heart, and eventually he was gonna go old, and he might inevitably pass away. And I thought it was like, because again, right, it's all part of human life, right? Like at some point we're all gonna go old, and at some point we're all not gonna be who we are once were, and we might all inevitably pass away one day. I thought it was so. And that was the thing that they said to the beginning, like they did something that's never been done before, and now I understand what they mean. Right.
First reaction was, that's going no.
Right. I'm like, oh, Batman? No, but I'm
That's
like, yeah, right.
They brought in David Giannioli, who's Bitsy Toli's husband. Who plays, I can't remember which son he played, but one of the sons that are grown.
Right.
Which was a little bit odd when he goes and kisses on the cheek.
Sure.
His mother, who is actually his wife. I mean, this is getting into Penguin territory, kind of, sort of. But because they had cast him and they didn't say what role he was going to be, fans went to the fact, well, he voices Batman in some of the animated stuff, so maybe he's, and that's where the Batman thing comes from.
Yeah. Obviously, like I'm kidding, right? Yeah. But yeah, right. That could have, yeah. But like that whole like ending montage to me, like I just couldn't stop crying because it was just so beautiful. It was everything that, like, as a Superman fan, as somebody that was invested into this show, that loved everything that I got from this show. It was like such a beautiful climax to not only Clark's journey but everybody's journey. And Adam, I gotta co-sign everything you said too. I thought every goodbye that he had was so beautiful, but it was the one he pats Lex on the arm, signifying that he forgives him for all the pain that he caused him in his life. That to me was so powerful because it signified that's Superman right there. See, you're never gonna get any better than that right there.
That kind of moment. If you love this character, I think as much as we do, it makes you want to take that same philosophy and there I'm sure there are people that you and I both don't agree with all the time, that we're not friendly with, that we don't speak to, and that made me say, you know what, maybe I'll never be friendly with certain people. We'll never talk. We'll never share a beer or a meal.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to. But I can say, I forgive you and I wish you well, despite the fact that I don't necessarily want to be around you.
Mm-hmm.
I can forgive you and say, whatever beef there is, it's over. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I'll do that. And so that kind of moment makes you want to live your life that way. So, or apply that principle to your life at least.
Mm-hmm. And that ending message of him talking about love too, as he's like leaving the door, like, let love into your life, you'll be all the more better for it.
Yeah. Which is so true. Yeah, and especially in the world we live today, more love is I think necessary. So that was a great message. Look, I'm just going to say this, and it's not just this season; it's all 4 seasons. This is easily one of the best, and the argument could be made for the best. I don't know whether I'm 100% there yet, but I'm leaving it. But it is one of the best live action adaptations of Superman. Period.
Yeah.
I think Bitsy Tork and Tyler Hoechlin rank among the top, and I'm not going to say where they are because we'll do an episode like that.
Yeah.
We'll rank the top 5 or top 10 or whatever. But they're near the top of the list for both Superman, Clark, and Lois, respectively, in their portrayals. And you know what? I gotta say, as probably Superman's last TV series for a while, it's cement, unless David Corenswet shows up in something on Max or something, which is highly probable. But it continued and cemented the trend that the Superman adaptations on TV have been phenomenal. And look, it goes all the way back to Adventures of Superman, because for so many people that was their version of Superman. That was my mom's version of Superman. She grew up with that show.
Yeah.
Then we went, Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman. Was great. Like, I loved it. Like, say what you want about Dean Cain's politics, leave that aside. But that show was a great representation of a more 90s Superman. Even the Superboy TV series, despite its camp and cheese, it tried to be a comic book brought to the screen in a literal sense, and I appreciate it for that. Then you have Smallville, which came out at a time when Smallville first debuted, there was talk of a new movie, but it was not a guarantee because every 5 minutes Warner was like, "We're doing a movie. We're not doing a movie. We're doing a movie. We're not doing a movie." Remember those days? Yeah, they ended really in 2021, but I digress. But they went from like 97 to 2021 with that kind of mentality. We're doing a movie. We're not doing a movie. So in that span, from 2001 to 2006, before Superman Returns came out, Lobo was not only carrying the torch for Superman in live action. Most of the comics from that period, with the exception of a few, namely Jeff Loeb's Batman Superman run, I was reading those comics back then. There were a couple of good things, but they weren't that great. And Smallville carried the torch for Superman back then. And garnered a whole new generation of fans for the property. And now we've had Superman and Lois. And all of them have just been really honest, earnest, loving depictions of the Superman character and lore. And this Superman and Lois show continued that and on some level surpassed it. And it has a permanent place in the beautiful tapestry that is the character of Superman. and it may be gone, or it may no longer be airing, but it will never be forgotten, and it will always be a part of the Superman legend. And I'm glad that it happened. Kind of sad that it ended, but at least it happened, and it was so good while it happened. So that's where I am, and this whole season was an A+.
Yeah. Wow, yeah, you know what? Beautifully said. And why? Actually, kind of got me a little emotional there. All seriousness, thank you. That was beautiful. I'm gonna completely echo and co-sign everything you said too. You know, this show, obviously putting aside the fact that things like Superman the animated series, Superman the movie, Smallville, you know, all that stuff that are so iconic to me as a, you know, me growing up and means so much to me. The fact that I had Smallville to go up with, and the fact that like that show placed a lot of morals and just, you know, how to like, you know, a way to like live my life, you know, based on qualities that were instilled in Clark Kent through that show. To have a Superman that I grew up with from when I was a child till I was a teen, and now to have a Superman show as an adult, that meant just this show to me was always just the gift that just kept on giving, you know. And in a state of uncertainty, when those of us didn't know when we were going to get another live action interpretation of Superman, whether it be a movie or a TV show. I remember when the show was announced, and so many people were skeptical because it had the CW banner under it. Yeah. And the show defied every expectation that I had. Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tolik, we've been giving them all their flowers, and they deserve that and so much more, because they held these roles with so much care and earnest and respect and dignity. And obviously we'll do a separate episode, but they are very, very high, and they are top tier interpretations of these characters. And much like you said so beautifully, this show, while it could have maybe lasted a little bit longer, it might have had some more juice left in the tank. It might be gone, but it's never going to be forgotten in my book. And if this is the last Superman TV show that we see for a while, for a long time, I'm glad that it went out like this, because this was as beautiful and respectful as a Superman television show as I think that we're going to get in this modern era. So this to me is the bar, and I know it's going to be raised, and I can't wait for it to see it get raised. But I'm so grateful that this show exists, because it brought me so much joy and love, and I got to share with people like you. I got to share with other people in the podcasting community, my mother, you know. So just this show, I'm going to miss it dearly, but I'm glad that we got it.
Absolutely.
So, it's an A+ for me as well.
Yeah, it truly is fantastic. And if you didn't watch it when it was on because of the CW stigma, do yourself a favor. Buy it digitally, buy it on Blu-ray, whatever you have to do. If you call yourself a Superman fan and you haven't seen this, correct that mistake, because it's fantastic and deserves your viewing time. You won't be disappointed. That's it for this episode. We are, again, on the way to Superman 2025. We are on the way to the start of filming of Clayface, which is the first live-action look that we're going to get at the DCU Gotham City. So that's exciting. A lot of cool things that Nick and I are going to be discussing. Hopefully, sometime in the next few months ahead. Maybe really soon. Maybe by the end of the year, we'll be discussing the casting of DCU Batman. I think that's coming.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's going to come before the end of the year at the very latest. That's going to be exciting to look forward to. On the other side, I mean, me and Donnie are covering. We've got 2 Green Lantern comics going, 1 about to start up, so there'll be 3, plus the live action show that we're continually covering all the news, plus the animated show that we didn't talk about here, but we will talk about on there. There's so much for us to discuss over there. All kinds of things that are happening in the DC. It's a great time to be a DC fan, a Batman fan, a Superman fan. It's always a great time to be a Batman fan. We're kidding. It's a fantastic time to be a Superman fan. Finally, the character is getting his due. I mean, we've got new comics. We've got, for the first time in years, a new ongoing Superman series coming out.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like the character is really getting there's a new Supergirl comic as well. I guess makes sense with the movie coming. You don't want to have a publishing thing.
Mhm.
So all these good things. Stick with us. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Retrospectives, the eventual review of Superman with Nick and I, which I hope is going to end up being the most glowing review I've ever given because that movie is really good. So I'm hoping that's the case. It can't be the other one because I refuse to accept that this is not going to be good. Like, it's just not in my mental capacity to understand. So I'm not even going to go there. It's going to be a good review, but like so much, the marketing, the trailer. Look, if we dissected the teaser before, just wait till that full trailer comes out. Just wait. That may be a 2-hour show in and of itself. So lots of cool stuff to cover in the next months and years ahead, and I couldn't be happier to have Nick on board to do it with me.
Likewise.
But in the meantime, before our next episode, which we'll discuss what exactly that is after the show goes up the air. But until that next episode, whatever it is, if you want to talk to Nick and I, you can on social media. Nick, where do they track you down?
Absolutely good, sir. You guys can follow me on Twitter, letterbox at Nick Zennick. You can actually most notably hear me on the Vigilante 1939 podcast. It is a it's a DC, Marvel, and box office leading show. As of this recording, Daredevil Born Again is going to be hitting. Will have hit everybody's feeds on Disney Plus. We got all the episodes early. We got the entire season early.
Nice.
I would have been fortunate to have seen it all by this point. We'll have a full review in that feed in the near distant future. So we're aiming for a March 5th release. So everybody, please be on the lookout for all that. And of course, I got a whole bunch of film reviews, audio only, in the Vigilante 1939 feed. That would be much appreciated. Thank you, Adam.
I'll be checking that Daredevil review out. Of course, first I'll watch the show and then I'll.
Yes.
And then
it'll be non-spoiler. Don't worry.
Okay, good. Then I'll watch it maybe before, because you can bet I'm going to watch those as they come out for sure.
Yes.
Because Daredevil is my favorite Marvel character. I will say that. For those that don't know, he's my favorite Marvel character. But if you want to track me down and talk about Batman, Superman, or even Daredevil, we can do that too. It's I am on X, but I like to promote my Blue Sky account because I'm trying to get on there more. I will link it in the description because I don't have it memorized. It's just I'm not there yet. I'm old. It takes me a long time to memorize crap. Like I'm 41, folks. I'm old. I'm starting to get gray like Superman did in Superman and Lois. We also, so I'll link that in the description. We also have a Facebook group, which I will link in the description. If you want to follow us there, you can click the description. Click the link in the description. I can't even talk anymore. I'm thinking of Bitsy don't look in that red dress. Click the link in the description. I'll add you, and we can have more discussions about all this stuff. But until next time, remember that Superman and Lois are forever. From the first time they fly together in the sky to the last. So long, everybody.